And so now we have a run on court.
Unbelievable. The Houston Texans. And we're going to let some people filter in here. Once we get tagged, I'll start seeing it, and we will all retweet it. Make sure that everybody that's coming into this show, what a disaster the Houston Texans are. And I want to make sure that I repeat it for people that are coming into the show as we are live streaming and everything. We appreciate everybody that has paid attention to us, but we have to talk about it, right? I mean, we're the Tennessee Titans. You don't not talk shit when your division opponent does something kind of ridiculous. They have basically said, for those that are just tuning in, the Houston Texans have used their first pick of the 2021 draft. Let me remind you, they have not drafted yet, and we're in the third round, on a quarterback, Davis Mills from Stanford, 25.8 completions per game. That is 7th in football FBS. What am I thinking of? What does the FBS stand for? Football schools? I don't care. Anyway, here's where we're at.
That's actually it, 100%. It's just
the Houston Texans.
And the FCS is
football
just football
schools.
Chance schools.
The Houston Texans have basically said, Deshaun Watson, we don't care if you're innocent. We don't care if you're guilty. We don't trust you. We are taking a quarterback. I don't know what to make of it. Heads or tails. Let's go first to Mike Herndon. Mike, if you're the Houston Texans fan that was on stage in that chair, I don't know if they still have the chair tonight, but in the chair, would you just throw yourself and the chair off stage, or just throw the chair off stage?
Oh, both me and the chair. I would try to throw it to where the chair landed on me after I fell off the stage. Yeah, I have no idea what Houston is doing. Obviously, they have some concern about Deshaun Watson being there long term, which granted, but my God.
They're like, hey, welcome to 5 months ago, Texans.
But imagine waiting for all 66 picks go by before you finally get to choose, because your former head coach got to be GM for a year and traded away all your picks. Then you take a quarterback from Stanford that started 11 career games in college and has had like 3 ACL injuries or something like that, something crazy. And not only that, but they also went out and signed Tyrod Taylor. They went out and signed Ryan Finley. Like, what are they doing with all these quarterbacks? Like, are they really that worried about replacing A.J. McCarron? I mean, it's so bizarre. This team's going to be absolutely atrocious this year, and I can't wait to watch it.
So let me ask you this. So, Jonathan Boren, this is the wide receiver depth chart that they have left either A, Deshaun Watson, or B, Davis Mills, or C, Tyrod Taylor. Brendan Cooks, Andre Roberts, Randall Cobb, Isaiah Coulter, Kiki Kute, Alex Erickson, Chris Moore, Chris Conley. Who's going to – listen, I don't even know if Aaron Rodgers, if they traded for Aaron Rodgers, he could succeed here. What is the point of this? I mean, like, are you just trying to murder your next? Is this the new? Hey, we know we drafted David Carr in the first round, so now let's draft David Carr in the third round and let him be killed even more.
I said it early in the offseason. This is a team that doesn't have a vision. It looks like they're trying to assemble the best 53-man special teams roster you've seen in history. It's just that. I just like Mike set it up. I can't imagine being a fan and saying, finally, this is our chance. We finally get on the board. There's still some talent left. And in your best case scenario, it's a backup quarterback. Because your best case scenario is things work out with your star quarterback, Deshaun Watson, right? And I just can't imagine that is what you get is Davis Mills. That's heartbreaking. If I feel bad. If I'm a Houston fan, I'm hoping we lose another franchise to another city. Get it out of here.
I mean, it's trending that way, right? I mean, if this corruption that's around this whole thing, Ryan, let's talk about the offensive line for the Houston Texans. And I mean, this is the only pick, right? J.J. Watt's gone. The offensive line is a little putrid, as it always has been. I mean, we're talking about in the trenches. I look at this, and we just saw the Texas product Joseph Asai went to the Cincinnati Bengals. Don't you think that would have been a better use of this pick than freaking Davis Mills? I mean, this is like drafting Mitch Trubisky and saying, yeah, this will be good.
Well, pick a position. Maybe they can combine these quarterbacks and one of them can play guard for them or something. But they had needed defensive end, receiver, corner, running back, defensive tackle. Everything was on the board. Another quarterback to their stable of 7 quarterbacks or whatever they have now was not it. And the one big knock on Davis Mills, just to point out, I was going to point it out, Mike said it, 11 career starts. He also locks onto receivers. That's a big knock. That's not something you like to translate over to the NFL game. So yeah, this was a team that had lots of needs. And we joke that we wanted Bill O'Brien to be the GM head coach forever because we thought as Titans people that he was doing a fantastic job. Well, the band keeps marching on apparently. So they're just making some questionable decisions for sure.
I think I figured it out.
Yeah,
Hold on. I think I
go
got
ahead.
it. Like, you got Caserio coming from the Patriots, right? So he's learning that system. He's a genius under Belichick. So obviously he saw them draft an unathletic white dude at quarterback and said, I can do you one better in the 3rd round, Belichick. And he went and got his guy.
Oh, man.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this. Kellen Mond went the pick before him to the Minnesota Vikings. Kellen Mond's off the board. Davis Mills off the board. What are those two teams doing with all the holes that they have on their defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball that they're just going to go, these guys that good? I mean, I understand the Buccaneers, right? Kyle Trask, I mean, if he doesn't pan out, he doesn't pan out, but you're probably going to win enough games that doesn't really matter either way because you got Tom Brady and you got the amazing defense.
Throw. Yeah.
So Mike, you got Kellen Mond. You have then Davis Mills panic by, I guess, the Houston Texans because there's going to be a run on backup quarterbacks, apparently. What do you make of these two teams and their decision-making?
I mean, it's kind of baffling. I don't know what the Vikings are doing. Like, if Kirk Cousins is unacceptable for them at quarterback, then Kellen Mond is not going to be any better. Like, Kellen Mond's best case scenario is like, hey, maybe he's a poor man's Kirk Cousins. Like, I mean, what are we doing here? Like, obviously, like,
I can tell you what we're doing. Let me tell you this. Whoever is in Minnesota's draft room must be Chris Sims because Chris Sims just tweeted out, Kellen effing Mond, what a steal for the Vikings. Blow that horn, pro football talk. Bow. Give me, and he spelled it all, by the way. That was all the O's and everything that he put in. Biao.
It makes me question him being so hype about Caleb Farley now. Honestly, it hurts. Bit, right? It hurts a little bit in my soul. No, it's really funny to watch the Texans go through this, honestly, because they kind of stumbled into Deshaun Watson all of a sudden, and like we were like, oh great, now we're locked into a division with this generational type talent at quarterback for the next 10 years after just getting out of the Andrew Luck and the Peyton Manning eras, and now it's maybe that's over.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, okay, Ryan, let me go back to you and ask you this. Do you even fear the Texans? Even if Deshaun Watson comes back at this point, do you even fear the Texans?
No, not where the Titans are sitting. I mean, well, they still need a receiver at some point. And I feel a lot better about it. But no, I don't think you can because they've been making some questionable decisions for years, and this just keeps piling on. Deshaun Watson, again, even if he comes back, it's going to be with some issues around him still, at least some questions for sure, because that's not going away anytime soon. But who's he going to have around him? They're not building anything around a quarterback, let alone these backup quarterbacks. So, I mean, it's just whatever. And Tyrod's going to get his lung punctured again, so he's not going to be available. The doctors are going to take him out. So,
geez, you are calling your shot on a lung puncture?
I mean, Jack Easterby, he may do worse than a lung puncture, honestly.
Yeah,
he's just going to disappear.
Real quick on Minnesota, Jonathan and I went to a Falcons game a couple years ago, and it was versus Minnesota, and we sat behind probably the most entertaining Minnesota fans I've ever been around in my life. I want to find those two kids and get their reaction to all this right now, just because it would be over the top and fantastic.
Okay, Boren, do you want to reiterate, put your stamp on number 2 pick, Dylan Raduns, before I throw it to Mike and Ryan, who will probably shower them with praise, the Titans, because they're company men and offensive line coach. Do you want to throw your final stamp on it and give a big FU to Dylan Raduns, or do you just want to, take it back a little bit? I mean, because
So,
that's
First, I do have to say it's Radins. Apparently, it's Radins.
I don't care. I'm not calling him Radins.
We can't do
he's
the Mariota thing.
He's got to earn ratings.
We can't get the fan base started off on the Mariota track because we know they'll never get off it.
Radins, I have not given him a 5-star rating until I hear his podcast. Okay,
they'll never get off it. We've got to start them on the right track, or they'll never correct.
Or maybe he could just change his name.
I said stop. I gotta have my moment here.
Have your moment. Give us the big FU on Radins.
And it has nothing to do with the player. The player, it may be fine. He may be great. The problem is that when you're assembling a franchise, they drop the ball by deciding if they need a starting right tackle. They had a guy that they made the playoffs with, that they made progress in one of the best offenses in the NFL with Dennis Kelly, and they decided to cut shop and go get Kendall Lamb. So to do that and then use a prime draft pick in the second round to bring a guy in, I do not see in any way, shape, or form that is solid use of draft capital and free agent management. So for me, I think he may end up being great, but he better be an all-pro to really justify based on what this team actually needs. And that's the thing. I've said it in a couple of group chats. This is a team that was spectacular on one side of the ball and mediocre. I'm not even going to say mediocre on the defense side of the ball. Like I said, I've said before, if they were just bad on defense, they'd be in the AFC Championship. They were historically bad. This is a team that traded that to right now, in my opinion, to be mediocre on offense and mediocre on defense. They are one-dimensional. They were last year. They're more one-dimensional this year. So for me, it just does not make sense for me to go second round offensive tackle.
All right, Ryan or Mike, there's only going to be one of you that can actually take this spot, because I'm not going to just, let both of you talk about it. Who wants to talk about
lose the numbers game?
Yeah, I don't want to lose. Well, I don't want to lose the ratings, okay? Because we're going to have more stuff to talk about. Ratings. Who wants to talk about ratings? Should we let's let Ryan go?
Yeah, let's let the offensive line coach do it.
Okay, ratings.
Oh my God! All right. That scared the ever-loving crap out of me.
He thought.
Right. Do you think it was the raccoons? Do you think the raccoons were coming for you?
Yes, I did. Oh my God! Oh my gosh! So Raiders, the thing is, I think he's a fit play style and scheme what he did in college. I like that. What I do like too is that with Lamb there, I don't like that Lamb was going to be the long-term starter anyway. So it's Caroline Max, but thank you, I appreciate it. Was going to be the long-term starter anyway. I do like the Lamb as a stopgap, maybe a better backup situation with Sombrero there and everything like that. You've got some options there to throw in a right tackle and see. He doesn't have to start right away, so you can work his way in. And I like the player himself, what he could be eventually. I do agree that it would have been nice to get one of these receivers off the board or something like that to really affect the offense. But hindsight's 2020. That past is the past. We got to move forward, make the best of it. And I get it. It's not sexy pick. They needed a tackle though early in this draft at some point in time because of how bad they screwed up last year. Well, with Isaiah Wilson stuff. Unfortunately, it bleeds into this year and it takes an effect. I'm not done yet, Bourne. So. But the player himself can fit well. He's a zone-heavy scheme. He can climb to the next level very well. He's a great run blocker, and he's adequate in pass blocking. I think he can develop into a pretty good starter this year for the Titans as they go forward and improve this offense, because you got to protect what's around running that engine for sure.
Well,
Hold up.
Okay.
Hold up. The past is the past. It was an hour ago. We can't just say we've moved on. It was an hour ago.
That's not what I meant, and you know it. I'm trying to be positive about the future, Dick.
Okay, so let's get to Mike here, because we have the Lions and the Eagles both take defensive tackles right off the board like that. It is insane. We know the Lions already drafted Levi Onwuzurike, and now they've drafted Aleem McNeil. And now the Eagles have drafted Milton Williams of Louisiana Tech. Two really good defensive tackles right off the board at 72 and 73. Mike, defensive tackles, that's pretty much it, right, for the Tennessee Titans? I mean, is there a defensive tackle worth drafting?
Yeah, Tyler Shelvin. I still like Tyler Shelvin, especially for what the Titans need. They're going to be playing Jeffrey Simmons and Danico Autry constantly on passing downs. What they really need, if they really want to use their kind of base 3-4 look in run fronts and run downs, is a space-eating nose tackle, just a glass eater in the middle of that defense. And Tyler Shelvin is absolutely that. So Tyler Shelvin would be a fantastic pick. I would prefer to get him in the 4th because, frankly, maybe one down type guy, a guy that's going to be playing like 30 to 40% of your snaps at best, just doesn't justify a whole lot of pick value for me. So I think, go get your pass catcher, go to the candy store, go pick out, your whatever you like, your Reese's Pieces, your M&Ms, go to your candy store in the 3rd round, get Tommy Trimble, get Amari Rogers, get Nico Collins, some of these receivers that are still on the board and tight ends, and then come back and maybe see if Tyler Shelvin's around in the 4th. That I think is the best case scenario, sitting in front of the Titans.
So let's talk about those 2 wide receivers, and I'll start with you, Mike. Nico Collins. Let's talk about 3. Nico Collins.
Yep.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, and actually 4. Amari Rogers and Diami Brown. Of those 4 wide receivers,
yeah.
I mean, I lean towards Diami Brown, but I think that this team's going to go Nico Collins. What is your take? And then we'll go around the horn. Who is your specific preference at wide receiver?
Kind of depends on like the flavor you want, right? Like they're all very different types of guys. Diami Brown is a kind of a more of a vertical threat, really, really excelled, kind of running go balls basically in the North Carolina offense. Didn't run a full route tree, so there's a little bit of projection required there, and I think that's kind of why he slid in the draft. There were some that kind of threw him out as a guy that could sneak into round 1 or at least upper half of round 2, and obviously still being on the board halfway through round 3 now. There's a reason he's kind of sliding. So I think that's a guy that makes a lot of sense because they do need a field stretcher, to go across from A.J. Brown. They don't really have that on the roster right now. But Amon-Ra St. Brown brings the physicality, inside-outside versatility. Amari Rogers, I think, is the most pro-ready of this group. I mean, son of a NFL wide receivers coach, or I guess T. Martin may be back in college now, but has been a wide receivers coach for a long time, obviously played the game at a high level too. We saw what the son of a coach did last year when, Van Jefferson went to the Rams and kind of immediately just fit right in. I think Amari Rogers is kind of a similar guy, undersized 5'9", but he is heavy, thick built 5'9". He's like 5'9", 210. So he's a guy that can make some tough catches in traffic, probably start him off in the slot. But I think if you played him in the slot right now, he could be a quality NFL receiver right now, today, plug and play, no questions asked. He's a guy that can win for you. So he's kind of my favorite. And then Nico Collins, big body, kind of a jump ball guy, would really kind of fit more of the Corey Davis mold if they're looking to replace that skill set. So yeah, it's all kind of flavors. It depends on what kind of guy you want.
I'm gonna switch it around real quick because I was gonna talk about wide receivers to everybody, but I do want to talk about cornerbacks with you, Jonathan. And here's why. We have seen I defeat you, Melifonwu. He's fallen. Trill Williams has fallen. Paulson Debo's about where he's supposed to be at. Keith Taylor's still out there. But strangely enough, Elijah Molden is still out there. And now we had talked about earlier, and the reason I'm coming back to you on this is that we had talked about earlier about maybe what if Asante Samuel is there at 53? What if this? And then I brought up Elijah Molden. You said that maybe if they were comfortable with him playing safety. We're coming up on 85. Elijah Molden is still there. We know that Amani Hooker is there. We do have Kevin Byer, but behind that's Dane Cruikshank, right? What do you think?
Hooker. So you're talking about it is what your evaluation is there of Molden. And is Molden a guy who you envision being a true outside corner, or is he strictly a slot guy? Oh, if he's strictly a slot guy, do I think that there's a chance that they could look at him and think they're getting great value there? I still think that they have bigger needs. I would get the progression. I think that's not seeing the forest through the trees, though, if they go that route. I get it. I think that you could see where he would fit in the future for them, but it doesn't make a ton of sense unless they just truly hate the wide receivers that are out there. But I think between the ones that Mike just talked about, I can't see them going that route based on the other needs of this team. But I do think it could be some decent value to get there.
Okay, Ryan, we're coming to you, and I want to ask you a question. This is a question that I am going to throw out there to you. You're not prepared for. But in the third round, maybe a running back of the future? Because I find this to be a little bit of a ridiculous question, so I'm going to pass it off to you. What do you think about this question from Max Craven, who may be related to Wes Craven? I don't know.
Max is good people, but I think it's completely crazy if they go running back in third round, running back of the future. There's a short shelf life of running back, but you've kind of covered there. You still got to see what you've got out of Evans if he can stay healthy enough and see what he looks like. I think that you can still pick up a running back next year or later that can kind of fit that mold. So you don't have to go that now. Trey Sermon's still on the board. He's not a bad running back, but I mean, the farther he falls, Michael Carter out of North Carolina is still there. But again, I don't think it's a better need. There's so much bigger things the Titans need right now. Receivers, where I really hope they go, unless the value for other positions are just slightly sarcastic, are just too great. So receiver is a need just because, and what Mike was saying there is, I think that, and Jonathan is going to probably hammer this if he gets a chance, is that the Titans have to get speed at some point in time to help balance out both sides here. And that's the thing is that Rodgers, I'm fine with. Nico Collins can bring some of that top level vert. I really like that. He's a big body guy. He's probably one of the biggest bodies left there. So that's where I really hope they go. Running back, I'm not so thrilled about. That'd be another downer. And now I'm going to start thinking, okay, I don't like this draft at all. So, and Julio Jones, yeah, that rumor's out there. I don't know how much that's going to pick up seed. I kind of want that to go away and just maybe focus on the draft. See if we can find some value here instead of relying on that.
Let me just say that I think the closer we get to the Titans pick, and the more I'm coming to terms with that, they're good with Josh Reynolds as their number 2. Ryan brought up a good point. This team is missing, even if it's a gadget player on offense, they're missing speed. And if the Titans need some guy that maybe is not a starter on the outside, but has a spot in this offense, I know that Zach is going to love it, but Anthony Schwartz is starting to make a little bit of sense here. And I don't mean that just as a troll. I don't mean that just I'm talking, this is a Mecole Hardman kind of pick when you have the other weapons that are there. But it is somebody that could fit in if you envision Josh Reynolds as already a guy that is your number 2.
He's fast.
Give me a break. He can't run he can only run one route. If I wanted it's basically just go sign Taywan Taylor. I'm sure he's somewhere in Cleveland wandering around, dropping like bartender glasses. I don't even know what he's doing right now. But just sign Taywan Taylor if you want Anthony Schwartz. I mean,
let's hold up. Okay,
I made the same comp.
Nah, Taywan Taylor was a guy who looked faster on tape than he actually ran. Anthony Schwartz proved that both on tape and in testing. He fast.
Oh, he's definitely
First
fast.
off, I have deleted Dove Kleiman off this list 3 times tonight. This NFL list I have populated that automatically populates tweets. And I just had what San Diego just took, and it is utterly ridiculous. It's crazy. It's good news for the Tennessee Titans, by the way. But we are at pick 76. The New Orleans Saints just took Paulson Adebo. Huge fan of Wes here at you see him on Facebook. He does the Broadway Facebook moderating. Paulson Adebo is his guy. That is his guy. He's off the board, which is fine because we got Caleb Farley. And I'd like to dive in just a little bit more further on Caleb Farley. So we did the instant reactions last night, Mike. And I'm sure that Ryan and Jonathan on their way home from Jasper's last night, they actually got to listen to it as well. How do you feel after that press conference? And I think what struck me the most about that press conference with Caleb Farley was the fact that basically he was in his car driving to the airport, and then he flew first class while Trevor Lawrence flew coach. Does anybody else not? I mean, like, that should be a huge story.
I mean, I love it because it just shows, the Jaguars are the Jaguars. I mean, there's just nothing. This is why people want to be traded from the Jaguars after 2 years, like almost, it's almost like on a schedule. Like you could go ahead and time the tweet right now of like, Trevor Lawrence and or Travis Etienne saying, I want out of Jacksonville. I'm done with this franchise. Like just set it for, June 2023 and we'll see you then. Jaguars are a trash franchise. So are the Texans. The Jaguars are going to ruin Trevor Lawrence. And I kind of feel bad.
I know
for
he's
Trevor
had
Lawrence,
everything in life handed
like
to him.
Guy.
He's had everything in life handed to him. Listen, I don't want to get into a race, but I mean, he's just a white guy who was really too uber athletic and good looking, and he got everything handed to him in his whole life. And let me say this: the Los Angeles Chargers drafted just now Josh Palmer, wide receiver of the University of Tennessee Volunteers. Amari Rogers is still out there. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still out there. Diami Brown is still out there. Tyler Wallace is still out there. Great news for the Tennessee Titans. Am I right, Jonathan Boren?
I think so. I think yes. Look, if Josh Palmer comes out and balls out and ends up being a good player, it's not going to shock me. But based on the production that he had at Tennessee, it's hard for me to take that pick in the third round. I think I would not shock me, but that's a little bit rich.
I mean, it's wild. I mean, right? I mean, Ryan, when you're looking at the tape of Josh Palmer, I know that it all boils down to the fact that, okay, maybe University of Tennessee wasn't that great. But, I mean, don't the players kind of in college have to do a little bit to make you feel like, okay, well, this guy's worth a third-round pick? We're talking about a guy that wasn't even worth that at the beginning of the year. His draft stock rose higher than Elijah Moore's, by far. I mean, if this guy's being taken in the third round, what do the Chargers see that maybe I'm not seeing?
They saw Jared Garantano. That's what
my
they saw.
God, Jonathan, your name is not Ryan.
He had to get a shot in. That's where I was going to go. It's always tough, and I was going to credit Jonathan with this because he's made this comment before. It's tough to evaluate Tennessee receivers sometimes because they've been so putrid a quarterback for such a long time. And then, I'm not trying to take a shot at Tennessee, but that's just the facts, is that they've been highly inconsistent. So it's tough to get a read on some of these receivers. They're behind in some games, so you're getting some throws up and everything. What bothers me about Palmer is he struggles in press coverage and he gets bodied quite a bit. I don't think the value is there. It's kind of a head scratcher. Good, like you said, good for the Titans because some of these other guys that I would prefer a heck of a lot more. And Josh Palmer, if Tennessee takes him in a later round, I'm fine with it. Here, not so much. I'm glad that temptation's off the board. If they're going to go receiver at the 85th pick, those other guys get pushed down further. I like it. Okay,
Mike, let's go to you real quick about this Josh Palmer situation, but I also want to talk to you about tight ends after that.
Yeah, I really like. So I really like Josh Palmer a lot. I've been on him for a long time. I've just watching Tennessee over the last few years. Like obviously the quarterback play was atrocious, but you could always see it with Palmer, right? Like you could always see the body control. He's got good speed, good size. He's got a lot of the stuff that I think you can't really teach. And frankly, he probably needs to be coached better, and he needs to get a quarterback who can throw the ball. And now he's got one in Herbert. So I think Palmer's going to be a much, much better pro than he was in college. And I don't think he's ever going to be a wide receiver 1. I think he could certainly be like quality wide receiver 2, I think is about his ceiling, but that's probably what you're looking for really here in the third round. So
I like it. So I want to continue with you. Corey D. Jackson Sr. says, none of these remaining receivers will make an impact. Go for a tight end. And we're looking at 3 tight ends in the third round. Coming up, pick 78 is off the board. The Minnesota Vikings have taken Chaz Surratt. Or it could be Surratt. I don't know. Maybe he's a Knight. But we have Brevin Jordan, Tommy Trimble, and Hunter Long staring down the barrel at the Tennessee Titans. Granted, that provides you with depth. When you're looking strictly on strategy, that provides you with depth at, okay, well, if those 3 are available at 85, could they be available? One of those guys be available at 100? Do you take the chance, Mike, or do you go ahead and take the best available tight end on your board?
I think it kind of depends because really I think your ideal situation with these next 2 picks is to get a wide receiver and a tight end. That would be your I think that's where the value is on the board right now. I think that's also where your biggest needs are on the roster currently. So I think you've got a good chance to actually fill some spots with guys that, maybe people would have been happy with it at 53. I certainly think De'Ami Brown's a guy that people would have probably been pretty satisfied with at 53. So if De'Ami Brown continues to slide down, if Amari Rodgers is there, those are good picks. But Tommy Tremble, to me, stands out among the tight end group. I'm okay with Brevin Jordan. I do like Hunter Long a little bit just because I think he fits kind of what the Titans want to do. But Tommy Tremble, to me, stands out because the Kittle comp is too easy and it's too lofty for sure, but it's there for a reason because the dude is a mauler. He plays with incredible effort and finish, which, if that sounds like Mike Vrabel, that's because that's what he says all the time, but that's what I think of as soon as I turn on Tommy Tremble. So I think he's a guy that the Titans would probably love, and his athletic profile, and if you just watch him as a pass catcher, suggests a guy that could be more at the NFL level, like we just talked about with Josh Palmer, than what he did in college from a pass catching production standpoint.
Well, we appreciate
I think he's a great pick if he's there.
Yeah, I think that with Trimble, you talk about a guy that it may not have the same value for other teams, but for what the Titans are missing right now, having an Anthony Ferguson that they can put in the slot, a guy like that, giving him a chance to come in and develop as a receiver, but he can be that extension of your offensive line early on, which I think he can come in and play that right now. I think he's ready at the NFL level to come in and be that blocker. So I think that makes a lot of sense for the Titans. And that's the guy that maybe others, and maybe not so much think, I may not think he's quite as valuable for other teams, but for the Titans, it's a perfect fit.
Well, we'll pick this back up. We're going to take a short break. We're gonna end the stream. We'll take a short break real quick because we need to gather a couple of drinks because the Titans are about to pick, obviously. But we're gonna gather our thoughts. We'll come back to you. So please turn your notifications on. We appreciate all the people that have stayed with us. Turn your notifications on because we got Mike Miracles, we got Jonathan Bourne, and we have Ryan Watson. You got pretty much all offensive and defensive sides of the ball taken care of. The best analysis. Like I said, since Jonathan Hutton and Coach Mack did Draft Show, this is the best analysis you're going to get. So please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. So turn those notifications on.